Well, billionaire Warren Buffett says the ultra-rich should pay more in income taxes than everybody else, which then inspired President Obama to call for the Buffett rule for taxing wealthier Americans. But nobody knew, and nobody still knows exactly how much Warren Buffett's paying in taxes until Congressman Tim Huelskamp challenged him to disclose his tax return, to unveil it, to show us everything on it. Well, joining me now is Kansas Congressman Tim Huelskamp. So, Congressman, you're an interesting guy. You're a freshman. You are a farmer, born and raised on a farm. You've got a PhD. You've got 4 adopted children. You represent the heartland of America pretty darn well. And then you decide to write a letter to your new pen pal, who's also in the heartland of America over in Omaha, Warren Buffett. Why did you write to him about his tax return?
Well, Mr. Buffett made some claims about his tax returns versus his secretary, and then the president decided we'd formulate an entire tax policy based on his anecdote. And I said, well, show me the proof, Mr. Buffett, of what's happening on your income taxes so we could have a good, honest discussion of what is occurring.
And his response was, okay, I'll do that the minute that, since it made it into the Wall Street Journal, that the chairman of News Corp, which is the parent of this company, Rupert Murdoch, that he should, when he releases his tax return, Warren Buffett will release his. And that's pretty much where the conversation has stopped, I take it.
Well, we challenged, we'd release my return if he showed me his return. He gave us some numbers. We believe they're true, and I think they've shown a lot about Mr. Buffett, that he wants to raise taxes on other people, but he doesn't want to pay a dime more than he has to pay, and he doesn't trust Washington with his money either.
And that's the part, I think, that's confusing a lot of people, because they're not tax experts. They have enough trouble trying to get their own taxes done. But that Warren Buffett doesn't make income like anybody that gets a W-2. He makes his income from investments, which are taxed differently for a purpose. Agree?
Oh, absolutely, because we want to encourage investment rather than discourage it. Apparently, it looks like, again, he won't release his entire tax return, just gives us the numbers. It looks like most of his income is investment income, which is taxed already at the corporate level, and then is secondarily taxed at a much lower level. And I think he tries to confuse people by throwing that all together. You know, if he wanted to reduce his secretary's tax burden, he could do what with her income and pay her in dividends just like he chooses to take, so he could pay the least amount of taxes possible to Washington.
Well, you're one of your committees that you sit on is the Budget Committee, very important committee, and everybody's talking about taxes and about different ways to tax people and how taxes are assessed to Warren Buffett or you or me or anybody else. But what nobody's talking about is spending, and I keep hearing at the debates all this business about different plans, but nobody is talking about specifics regarding spending, and you know why? Because they don't want to show their cards and then be attacked by everybody on the other side of the aisle.
Well, absolutely. The town of Washington is based on one thing, spending money, whether they have it or not. When you're running a $1.3 trillion annual deficit, and we've had the biggest budget in the history of our country was last year, they said we'd make cuts. We did not. The end result is we're spending too much money. I mean, you could raise taxes, double the taxes on the rich, like Mr. Buffett is suggesting. That would allow for 2 days of federal spending. So what are you going to do with the next 364 days to come? It's a spending, not a taxing problem. It isn't that we don't have enough tax revenue coming in Washington. It's the fact we're spending too much money.
In fact, for the fiscal year that ended on September 30th, it showed where individual income tax collections were up 21.5%. So people are paying more in taxes. The problem is that you guys, I'll include your member of Congress, are the ones that are spending more than that. So I mean, you're a freshman. You go to Congress. You've been there now for half of a term, a little more than half a term. What do you think? How does it feel? Is anybody serious about cutting spending?
There are not many of us, apparently. I voted against every budget that wasn't responsible. I voted against budgets that was going to grow spending, that didn't tackle the underlying problem. The problem in Washington, again, is a spending problem. And the distraction of Mr. Buffett and Mr. Obama is they want to make it about taxes. They want to make it about soak the rich, go after the evil corporations, big oil, corporate jet owners, go over that whole bit. The problem is the economy is not growing. We need more taxpayers, not higher taxes. And that's the way you grow the economy, is you encourage investment. you roll back regulations, you get the economy going again. I think we'd have a tremendous influx, even greater, in income taxes if we'd get Washington off the backs of entrepreneurs across America. And the thing about Mr. Buffett is he has been a great investor. He's very savvy. He would never do these things in his business that he's suggesting this president does on American businessmen and women.
Yeah. And so, again, going back to your, how's it going kind of question for you. Are you frustrated, or do you see a path where why you went to Congress, that you can actually achieve some of these spending cuts?
Well, I've done about 70-some town halls back at home, and I always get the question, was Washington everything you thought it'd be? I said, oh, yes, and much worse. We knew the system was broke. We knew we needed to make changes, and we knew it was going to be very difficult. And we had a huge freshman class. Some of us are working hard at that, and others are I don't think, making much progress helping to get it done. But if the American people get their way, what I hear back home in the district, if they get their way, we're going to cut spending in Washington. That's why we try to pass cap and balance. That's why we'll push a balanced budget amendment and hopefully get this through the House at least this fall. We've got a lot of work to do. I think we're making progress. Instead of talking about all the new stimulus packages that the president talked about for the last 2 or 3 years, and Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid, we're talking about at least where we need to cut spending. And that's progress in Washington, because they never talked about the out-of-control spending. No. So talk is one thing, but the action is yet to occur in a way that makes a difference for our children and grandchildren.
And so as you look at all of the Congress and how it works, and you're learning the ropes and everything else, this business of going from citizen to congressman, there must be a lot of pressure, because on one hand, people are saying, we want smaller government, we want you to cut spending, but don't you cut my benefits. And in a way, I kind of understand what they're talking about, because they see all this wasteful spending and $500 million loans to solar companies and to electric car companies, and they're saying, when you start cutting back on this frivolous spending, maybe I will send you some more money in taxes.
Yeah, they don't trust Washington at all. I agree. I see the same things, but what I do see out there, though, is folks that are saying, you know what, I understand that we can't keep spending more than we're taking in. Every dollar that's spent in Washington, 41 cents is borrowed. That's unsustainable. Everybody knows that, except the people in Washington. But people are telling me, you know what, I'd give up something for my children and grandchildren if everybody else would. That's why across-the-board cuts, doing something that attacks the problem directly with our cut, cap, and balance proposal. They did something short-term, medium-term, and long-term, because they know we can't get out of it overnight. It'll take some tough decisions, but the American people, at least the Kansans I talk to, say, you know what, Tim, we demand you do something about it, not only on the spending side, but keeping taxes at the same level. Don't raise taxes, but also get them off our back on regulations. Investment folks and small business folks all across Kansas are telling me, you know what, we don't need any more help from Washington, no more stimulus packages, no more regulations. Just stop what you're doing for a while and give us a chance to recover as a business.
All right. Keep working at it. Glad you're there. I'm glad you're there. Congressman Tim Gilscamp, thank you so much.
Thank you.